Welcome to Pickup's On The Move podcast. Today we have Clint Sheraton with us in the studio. Clint was Taxify, now Bolt's first employee outside of Estonia. And Clint is the founder of TCV Africa, a high-performance driven consultancy agency assisting Amazon sellers. Clint, welcome to the podcast and great to have you here.
Thanks, Antonio. Likewise, happy to be here.
A few years ago when we met, you told me about the story with Taxify, now Bolt. It's a super exciting and interesting story, and I think it's something that so many more people need to know about it, like being the first employee outside of Estonia in South Africa, which was the first country they expanded to. When they started here, how did it all happen? How did you become the first employee?
It started in late 2016. My aunt's husband was friends with one of the guys in Estonia, and he was a partner with the owners of Bolt Taxify. He then got the license to roll out Bolt in South Africa. But the product was offered on a let's offer this to the taximeter companies and assist them with managing their fleets. And then after that, it took about a year for us, after canvassing and going back and forth and trying to get them to take on the product, that the model then changed into an Uber model. Thereafter, from the Uber model, we then started engaging with the taxi industry, being the drivers, the Uber drivers, canvassing to them, trying to bring them on board, obviously trying to sell them our service. And in that instance, we offered them stuff like lower commission, low commission, better support. Those were the services which were an issue for those drivers in the industry at the current point of time. So we looked at that, we started canvassing, we started having sessions with them. We then started training drivers. I mean, at one time we were training drivers out of my mom's garage. Down the road we had 20, 30 vehicles at a time, with drivers coming to train. And from there we went into a launch in Johannesburg. So from Johannesburg, Cape Town launched soon thereafter. And then we saw the scale taking place thereafter, because now people started to like the service, happy with what was being offered from a driver perspective and from a rider, because the rider was getting lower prices. So the rider benefited and the driver benefited as well.
Yeah.
And at that stage we were signing up hundreds of drivers per week. But again, to scale on a platform, on an e-hailing platform, it's scaling drivers and riders at basically a set period of time. There needs to be that flow where drivers and riders are coming on board to keep the scale going. And soon thereafter, we were basically the partner for Taxify, and then Taxify decided that they're going to take everything in-house and run it themselves and employ staff, etc. And that's where they've offered me the position to head up their marketing and the Cape Town office for them.
So very, very interesting, because it was only the other day that I actually realized that Bolt was originally, they provided a solution for meter taxis. It wasn't an e-hailing platform from the start. So they actually kicked off in South Africa on that same basis and then pivoted to what Uber does today, pure e-hailing.
True, and that helped also cement the relationship with the meter taxis as well, because we never had any issues between Taxify, Bolt and Uber, etc. in the industry in Cape Town, just because we went to and we approached them directly and offered them something. We didn't just come into the market and say, okay, we're just going to take over the market. We went into it on the basis of that we want to partner with you to assist you to grow your brand in Cape Town.
Yeah, and all of this from the founding team being in Estonia and you in South Africa. I believe they only came down a few years after you kicked off the e-hailing side of the business. But how did you mentioned now how you guys pivoted, went through some challenges. with them being there and you, yeah, how was this coordinated?
Most of it was done through the likes of Google Meet and Zoom and those platforms. So we'd have weekly sessions with the team. They'd also bring some of the guys down as well. So expansion manager would come down as well. So we had that we could learn from as well. But most of what we learned was on the tools itself. So the backend systems on how to monitor and manage drivers, onboarding drivers, etc.
So it sounds like they used South Africa as the expansion ground to move into other parts of Africa, which later happened. But all their learnings, most of their learnings came from, I mean, Estonia is a relatively small country and they got traction there, but a lot of their success today came from those early stages when they got set up in South Africa. From your side, what were the biggest challenge for you? You said one of the founders from Estonia got in touch with you and you didn't know what to expect, right? You had no idea. The initial thing was a meter taxi software solution, which became fully fledged Uber competition, right? I know in the early stages there was onboarding drivers, that whole challenge with supply and demand, having the right amount of drivers with the right amount of customers. How was that managed? How did you manage that supply and demand?
I think the core focus was more on supply, so ensure that we have sufficient drivers so the ETA time can be as low as possible. And then we'll push harder on, let's say, the Facebook marketing, or at that time, X, Twitter was prominent, and driving the campaigns through there to onboard, because we were onboarding clients. But again, their view was have as many drivers, bring down the ETA, to ensure that a customer's experience is, I mean, you don't want a customer to wait 10 minutes before a driver actually comes and picks them up. You want that driver to be there almost instantaneously, as though you're getting into your own vehicle. Yes. So that is where we basically focused on, was to onboard. Because not all drivers are going to be active, meaning a driver has some other things to do besides just driving during the day. It might be offline for a few days. So we need to ensure that we're always having drivers onboarded. So that is the biggest driver, was to ensure that we onboard as many drivers as we can.
Yeah, and I remember back in the day, Uber, I think they gave out Apple phones to drivers because drivers didn't have smartphones to drive. The vehicle requirement was obviously quite stringent in terms of making sure the vehicle was X, the model was X. It could only use a vehicle that was, at the time, like 2010 or 20. What were some of the challenges from a Bolt side that you had to overcome to compete with, well, not to compete, to mitigate some of the issues that you had with the drivers?
Look, the biggest one was lowering the vehicle requirements. So we lowered the vehicle requirements. So when we entered, I think it was 2012 models, 4 doors, etc. is what we. And then also remember we introduced cash as well.
Yes.
And that was a big upsell at that point in time. And I think a few months thereafter, Uber came in and also started offering the cash option as well. But that soon died down as well, because people didn't want to walk around with cash and paying drivers, etc. So they preferred to use cards. And that's where the model started to come into play. And
moving from your family garage to an office, how long did that take? At what point would it become viable to do that for you?
Oh, we were sharing offices for a bit, and I think we've moved quite a bit. I mean, we were in Deep River, we were in Town, we were in Mowbray. So we moved quite a bit, and I mean, we only had a team of about 3 to 5 of us managing the entire Cape Town. Right. So it was a small team, but purely focused on driver acquisition and customer support. I mean, even myself and a couple of the other guys who were more tech focused, we used to close tickets, support tickets. We'd sit in the evening and close tickets, have a competition as to who can close the most tickets. So that was exciting, because it felt like an entrepreneurial type business that we were running, our own business. It felt like that. and then it obviously just grew and grew. And within 3 years, we were doing like 2 billion rand in turnover. It just grew and grew and grew. And then obviously went into the markets like Nigeria, which became, I think, the second biggest market. And that's where Africa sort of cemented itself as the biggest markets for bulk Taxify.
Yeah, and you see that's been their focus, Europe and Africa, no signs of going into America. But it's amazing to see the scale that Bolt has undergone and the innovation that they've continually adopted into the business. Electric vehicles rolling out across Africa, in Europe. From where you are today, looking back at that journey, do you still communicate with any of the team? Resonate the challenges that you went through, that you achieved? What's the relationship like with any of the team members at Bolt?
Look, some of the local guys I still chat to now and again, but a lot of them have moved on as well. So some have worked for the likes of Move, the vehicle financing companies, and etc. But they've become so big. I mean, I think they've got like 10,000 or something ridiculous amount of staff now. From having a few hundred.
Yes,
It's crazy the growth that they've taken on.
Yeah.
But they've gone a lot into the scooter market, and obviously EV is something that they're looking into now. So I don't think there's that much e-hailing scale for them here, because it's kind of what is there now.
Yes,
it's not going to go any further than there's not any further growth as opposed to changing and creating new streams, basically, like bringing in EV and maybe they're doing deliveries as well, so parcel deliveries, etc. It's just form of scale for the business, but there's nothing more than e-hailing can offer now.
Definitely, I'd say for you a big feather in your cap being involved in that sort of growth expansion team in South Africa, outside of Estonia, and I'm sure you take a lot of experience through into what you do today. Why the eventual move from Bolt? Growing company at the time. What made you move on?
I think for me it was stagnation. So I think I just got to a stage where everything was just ticking over. All the processes and procedures were in place, and I said, I need something different, a change of scenery. And for SA, there wasn't really anything else that could be done. It's now just to go into a standard operational mode, and for me it's more about scaling, growing things, etc. And that's what led me to where I am now.
Because we chatted after that. I mean, we chatted for a few years, a few things you're involved in, and then the eventual TCV Africa that you started. Tell us a little bit more about that and how that works and what you do.
I think 2020 we started looking at selling on Amazon. So we started out as Amazon sellers in the US market. We grew our business to 7-figure in the market from South Africa. So sitting in Cape Town, everything was done remotely from here. And soon after that, well, not soon after that, but late last year, we started looking at how can we assist local brands and companies in growing their businesses, both inside South Africa and outside of South Africa. And then we started looking at offering consulting services, which there are in the US. So there are many agencies, Amazon agencies throughout the US, which services brands locally as well and globally. And then we started pitching to some of the local brands and obviously engaging in some of the Facebook groups. And from there, we started receiving inquiries as well. And then from there, we started assisting brands now with registering a LLC in the US as an example. There are also requirements regarding sending food into the US, so the FDA requirements. So we basically offered more than just a full service by offering that handheld service. We guide the client through the entire process to take their business globally. I mean, we've got a toy brand from South Africa that's now in the US market. He's going into the UK market and wants to go into all the Amazon markets globally. But again, there are a lot of requirements around getting those businesses operational in the various countries. As you know, in the UK and Europe, VAT is a big thing. So VAT requires everything for VAT registration in the respective countries. So it's not a, just send stock and sell and away you go. I mean, you have to register an Amazon account, and there's also requirements around doing those things as well.
Yeah, and I guess a lot of people just don't know how that happens and what they need to do to sell product on Amazon. Amazon being the biggest e-commerce company in the world. So for me as a business in South Africa, selling on Amazon internationally, someone orders, I ship my product internationally, like you say, some growth with some of your clients. Then Amazon decide to have a presence in South Africa. How did that news or that change for what you do? All of a sudden now, Amazon going to open a warehouse here and start distributing from South Africa. How did that change, and did that spike the requirement for your services, not only for international growth and just local connection through Amazon?
Yeah, look, our focus is always exporting out of South Africa. The reason being why we said that is because there's only that much of a market in South Africa. So for the local brands, the growth it's limited, So for them to grow further than where they are is to go outside of the market. But then those same clients also required to set up an Amazon presence in SA now that Amazon has come here. So, it's just taking the existing client and spreading him throughout all the marketplaces that you can get access to. Because in the end you need to be in as many marketplaces as you can, because you don't want to be left behind. So you're kind of forced to get into a marketplace, or at least the big ones, to ensure that your product stays relevant in the market. Because knowing that the Chinese sellers will come into South Africa as well, because that's what they do in any respective market.
Before we get into that, because I think that's a big topic that I wanted to discuss. So Amazon coming into South Africa, we just a week ago or 2 weeks ago, we saw the launch of Amazon. Huge hype around them getting set up. The demand for your services, did it spike? How do you help someone set up locally on Amazon? What is the process? Does it take a week? Does it take 2 weeks? Is it quick?
Yeah. Look, from a listing perspective, so it's first the client needs to open up the Amazon account. So they have to have all the required documentation, the company registration docs, proof of address. Most important thing is to ensure that the information you enter onto Amazon's site when you register matches the documentation that you are using. Because if it doesn't, Amazon will kick that out and ask you for the correct information. If you own a brand, you have to do brand registry, so you need a trademark. So if you have a trademark CIPC, you can then enroll in brand registry, which gives you access to a whole lot of other features as well in managing your Amazon account, which includes your own Amazon store. So your Amazon store would be amazon.co.za/ whatever your company's name is. So that's where I've mentioned that you can drive traffic to that store if you don't have your own website presence, basically.
So you say you saw a spike in inquiries in local companies wanting to get set up on Amazon?
Definitely. Amazon's system works in a way that you need to get it right the first time, because if you don't do it right the first time, there might be long-term issues that you'd experience. If you're not compliant with information that Amazon says you need to use to list your products, the bots will automatically just deactivate either your account or your listings. And we've seen that already in some of the Facebook groups where guys are getting their accounts deactivated because they are using trademark names, as an example, in a product listing title.
And I think the expectation is something that I've definitely seen. A lot of people just expected to have a blueprint of what Amazon in America is all of a sudden now in South Africa. When the site went up, there was this huge hype around it. And then there was just this disappointment because the site just didn't look like anything appealing. It was just like a normal website that you can order products from. My question is, are Amazon looking to stock product here, international product here, to make it more accessible for people in South Africa to order? Is it a pure marketplace offering where local players can sign up and sell on Amazon? What is the value proposition that Amazon is bringing to all the local players?
I think from that perspective, the growth is a soft launch. So Amazon targets a soft launch approach, and once it finds scale and compliance regarding other categories, it will then scale and grow. From a market where other sellers to sell on here from other countries, let's say from the UK or the US, etc., they have to basically send stock into South Africa. So it needs to either sit at the 3PL in the country or directly into Amazon's DC. So that is what they call FBA, fulfillment by Amazon, and then FBM is fulfillment by merchant, which means you're going to sit in a 3PL and you basically manage the shipping process and ordering process on behalf of the client when they order a product. It's difficult to say how many or what type of brands will come into South Africa. I think if you look at the big name brands, let's say for instance L'Oreal, etc., they have a SA presence. So all that for them is enabling that service on the platform. If you're looking at other products, etc., that might not be of a global brand, that's just dependent on whether that seller intends selling in our market and whether our market is big enough for them to be selling their product. Because not everybody goes into every single market. It's dependent on whether there's growth in that particular market for them to enter.
So I guess it's what you're saying in that sense, it's cutting out a lot of middlemen in that process where brands can sell directly into in the country. If they have a presence in the country, it makes obviously shipping quicker, which is my next question. We look at Amazon Prime. It's not part of their service at the moment. It was a game changer for them in the US and other parts of the world. When can we expect Amazon Prime? It's a question I'm really excited to know and know what the answer is. But when can we expect Amazon Prime to hit our shores?
Look, I don't think it's going to be any time within the next 6 months. If we look at Amazon's competitor who's just launched a subscription service, that might speed up the process for them to launch their Amazon Prime service as well. And the great thing about Amazon Prime, we know that Prime TV comes with that subscription model, and we know how well that does on its own. So I don't see it anywhere in the next 6 months until all the categories are open. There are a lot of back-end system or actions that aren't active yet. So on your advertising stuff like sponsored TV, sponsored brands, aren't available for you to use for advertising yet. So there are a lot of things to click on before I think we get to the Amazon Prime model.
So I guess it's really the internal systems that Amazon has built that's allowed them to scale into other countries quicker. That's really the threat for the local players. And it seems very, very competitive. We've got Bash, Takealot, Amazon, obviously the likes of the Chinese companies, Shein, Temu coming in, which we'll talk about now. Do you think there's enough there's space for all these players to compete?
I don't think so. I don't think our market's that big enough to contain all those. I mean, we've seen already that all those who are selling their own brands on their own websites are already feeling the punch of Shein and Temu already advertising and taking up all the Google ad space as well. So it's making it tougher for them to sell their products. I would say look at more the marketplace, because your client base is already there looking for the product, so it makes it easier. I mean, we know Amazon in the US is used as a search engine for products before even people using Google. So the first point of entry will be Amazon. If I'm looking for something, I'm going to go to Amazon first. And that is going to make it even more difficult, because the cost per clicks are going up now, because the guys need to spend more money to be relevant on Google, and then still make profit as well from selling against those other marketplaces that are going directly to the consumer as well.
Yeah, so that's definitely interesting. I think that there's a lot of talk. We've seen people talking about them buying up all the advertising, Google, Instagram, wherever you go, it's just Temu or Shein, and making it obviously a lot more competitive for the local market. If I was a local player, would I just wanting to boost my e-commerce presence and understanding that the space is competitive, would I focus on listing with marketplaces, whether it's Takealot or Amazon, and really using your services to build the strength in that? Or would I be focusing on my own e-commerce strategy, i.e. building my own website, doing my own delivery connections with the local companies? What would your advice be for local players?
I think if you're running your own website, I think a few years ago it was fine to use that as your core driver, but I think that needs to become your secondary driver now, and your core focus needs to be more on marketplaces now. So Amazon and Takealot you need to have the presence there and use that as the driver for sales, and use your current website as your secondary business and not your primary business, because it's getting lost. You know, you're gonna have to be spending more to make less money, kinda. Whereas you've got something in Amazon where you can organically rank, you can use PPC to get your ranking up, which allows you to be visible on page 1 and 2, etc. So there are a lot of strategies one can use on Amazon as an example, which allows you to get as much of the sales as possible. But again, it's not just about writing up a few content briefs and adding your bullet points onto Amazon and away you go. I mean, what the service that we offer is we do keyword research. So we research the keywords and we build those keywords, the relevancy of those keywords into your copy. So into your bullet points, into your title. So that assists with organically ranking and also for your paid ranking as well.
I think that you answered my next question there, just in terms of like how, if I had to list on Amazon, why would someone search my product? You know, normally you would want to promote your own product and sell it through your website, because if it's t-shirt A, what's going to make someone search your t-shirt versus another one? And I think you answered the question there, just with like Amazon being a search engine, you've got rankings. So tell us a little bit more about how that works. I think that's very interesting for a lot of.
If you look at your product titles, I've seen some people who've listed product titles and they're like 2-3 words. You need to look at relevant keywords to your product. It might not be direct to your product, but it's when it's the search visibility. So when people search on anything relatable to your product will appear. That's where you get your organic ranking. And that's where you also need to ensure that your bullet points are broad enough and understandable and legible and easy for people to read as well, and then incorporating your keywords. So we take the keywords so we do competitor research, we'll do keyword analysis on other marketplaces, let's say the US market, and look at the relevancy of those keywords to your product, and then start incorporating those keywords into your content, whether it's product description, bullet points, product title, alt keywords, etc. So you rank and you grow wherever you are on the landscape.
So really marketplaces are really dominating that space in terms of local players listing their products. The focus, your advice is get listed on the marketplace. Once that's rolling, once you've ticked that box, consider then possibly other channels like your own website, your own e-commerce strategy, and then sort of have a complete strategy once you've nailed the marketplaces.
Yeah. If I look at Takealot now, it's getting more complex. It's not as easy to register and list, because their requirements are also 5 images now. So Amazon's requirement for images are 5 images, main image on a white background, and then you have lifestyle images, etc. You can add videos, etc. Takealot's following the same route on the image requirements as well. So again, it's getting more complex, it's getting more difficult, and that's why you have hundreds of agencies globally on Amazon who assist Amazon sellers due to the fact that it becomes as complex as it is becoming now. And I feel that that's going to happen with Takealot as well.
Yeah, well, you're looking at, I think the numbers are total size of the e-commerce market somewhere around 5 or 6%, and they're predicting that to go up to 13% in the next 2 years. I think that's a significant growth, and obviously a big focus point for local companies to obviously consider your services. And yeah, we'll be watching closely TCV Africa. Clint, thank you very much for your time today. I'm excited to see the growth, and definitely from a delivery aspect, I'm sure we'll connect and help a lot of the customers not only get on, understand how to get onto these marketplaces, but also to advise on what the best delivery strategy is for their company. So thank you very much for being on the show today.
Thank you. It's been great. Good. It's been exciting, and yeah, it's been a long time coming.
Thanks, Clint.
Cool.